Alright, let's see if that works then. Might just readjust this. Just the camera slightly. It's got that weird haziness. That's slightly better. I think so. Yeah, anyway, I'm doing a live stream, so I think that could be pretty fun and enjoyable. I'm working on this little landscape painting. Well, I say little, but it's about A2 pretty much. Just trying to get rid of that haziness. There we go. Yeah, that seems to work decently well. So I can't zoom in with this because I'm just using an old webcam for this. And I've got everything set up and I've got some music on in the background. And working. Yeah, just about. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if you can hear me or not because it's all connected to my off microphone, which is on over here. And then the camera's up there. Hello. And yeah. So anyway, I am working on this oil painting, which I've only just about started. And unfortunately, I couldn't check how the camera was going to look before I pressed live on live stream. I'm just readjusting that first. I do apologize. Yeah, see, that doesn't quite work. That doesn't work. Okay, hopefully that looks decent. So I've got my oil paints laid out here, and I've got white, black, blue, dark green, light green, but for the first part, we're just working on the sky. So I think that's like the first, sorry. I'm working on the sky for the first bit, and I got gifted some Andrew Tischler brushes for Christmas, so I'll be using these. And all I've done so far is I've just laid down a a brown background, I apologize, and that's done in acrylics. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Tell you what, I'm just going to close that, and yes. Okay. Sorry, I won't be a minute. I'm just correcting this. Okie dokie. So I think the camera works, and that you can see that. I'm just looking at it really quickly on my phone. I'm just trying to get the devices I can off of the internet because I don't want it to crash. And oh, I got to hear myself. Ooh. I'm going to need a better camera because the camera quality that I can see on this looks great. The camera quality I can see on this looks dreadful, apparently. And yeah, fun. I don't really know how to fix that, if I'm completely honest. Which is a pain, a nuisance, annoyance, and just downright inconvenient. But I might try. See if we go a lot closer in, because you're not interested in me, you are interested in the painting. So I'm just seeing how that is again, just to make sure it might look slightly better. Okay, that quality seems slightly nicer. Unfortunately, I use a an LED light above, like literally just above where the cameras are. So unfortunately, it gives that slight ripple. But yeah, I think hopefully it works because I just want it to work. I might invest in a better live stream camera because my camera that I use to record can't record on its SD card and live stream at the exact same time. Plus, I don't actually have the correct cable for that, unfortunately. I tried it earlier and it just went, nope, that's not going to work. Bye-bye. And sort of just went into shutdown mode. So, yes. I think that quality is slightly better. But the other thing is that I'm trying to get this a similar angle as to what it is when I do the recordings. And so because of that, it's making my life really hard because I don't want the actual the live stream camera in the recording camera's angle because it's going to get directly in the way of you. Like you would see the live stream camera here if you were watching it as a recording. Gosh, this is challenging. Right, I do apologize. It's been like 5 minutes, so please ignore pretty much everything I've just said and done because, one, I'm mildly uncomfortable in front of a camera, but I'm trying to improve that. Two, it's just hard to organize and sort out. So let's give it a shot. So I do hope that quality is all right. If it's not, I might find a different camera to use in the next one. But, oh, so that's going to make that noise then. Okay, right. Yeah, that works. So the bleeping sound is just the recording camera working its thing. And then I've also on the side here, I've got my reference photo, which the reference photograph, I say photograph, the reference image that I'm using is actually just a reference that I created digitally using Photoshop and a Wacom tablet, which I'm going to have like a small video on, but I didn't do any recording for that because it's, yeah. Also, I hope you enjoy a little bit of the music as well because YouTube and their copyright laws and stuff don't actually allow me to play decent music. So I guess I'm just working with what I've got, really. So, yeah. I'm excited for this. I've been excited to do something like this for a small while, actually. So anyway, I'm just mixing up some blue paint with some white, and I'm using Winsor and Newton paints for the most part. Right, okay, so we've got a light blue here. Let's see if you can see that. Just don't know how good that quality is. But anyway, so also these brushes are just like the most beautiful brushes on this earth. They are just stunning. But anyway, let's try them. So I've not used these brushes before, and they're exciting. I'm excited about them. Just going to turn this music down. So yeah, hopefully you can still hear that. Yeah, honestly, I'm not entirely too sure about what to say for a lot of this, but it's one of those things of almost make it up as you go along in my mind. The other thing as well is when I put the actual reference photo onto the canvas, so I've spent about 2 weeks or so creating 4 different reference pieces off of the top of my head, and not off the top of my head. I found an old photograph that I've used as reference for the landscapes themselves, and the idea of the whole project is to create a series of 4 landscape pieces that are going to that are then going to have. It's really hard to talk and paint. I've never realized this before, but it really is. Okay, right. Mind in the right place. I'm talking. So the idea of these pieces actually is to create a series of 4 landscape pieces that will show the evolution of a landscape over a period of time, showing from before humans, us, actually made a change to the landscapes and like what we did to them. And then I've got 4 other canvases which are laid out and everything, which are just over there. And they're going to actually show the evolution over time to show and demonstrate how we have changed the landscape. And I'm doing it a lot more as a contemporary piece of work because I'm really keen to show more contemporariness in my works. Rather than just stick with pure realism, I want to still use that realism, but try and communicate a message within what I'm actually doing, which I've never really done before. I have done slightly over the summer holidays, but it wasn't a massive thing for me. It never really has been until recently because it's something I'm keen to get into more. So that's that really. But I also have the idea of trying to do this as an alla prima painting, which I didn't think would work too well, but I'm going to do what I can because the initial idea was to actually start with all of the paintings and actually have 4 different easels working at the same time, basically. And I'd have them all laid out all around the studio, which is my place of work, my sanctuary, as it were. And have all 4 paintings on the go at the exact same time, which was the initial idea until I realized I don't actually have enough space. And because I don't have enough space, I'm just going to work on each one as it goes. And because they're larger, they're a lot larger than I've ever done before, which brings me to my next point. I have never done a landscape painting, a real landscape. I have done a landscape in the past. I've done 2 landscapes in the past when I first started drawing and painting, which was in 2019. I started drawing, and then in 2020 I started painting, and it didn't go well. That made me never, ever, ever want to do a landscape painting. But look where I am now. I'm doing a landscape painting. And that's what has led me to this, really, is that ambition to push forward. And I know I jump between topics when I talk an awful lot. I apologize for that. That's just my mind works in unusual ways. I was talking about alla prima, yes. Back to topic on point. And it's not going to be pure alla prima like working in plein air, which is plein air. It is literally, I'm going to do this top layer, which is the paint, which is the sky. Then I'm going to move down to this second layer. It's sections. I've sectioned it out in my head. So I've got the first section, which is the sky, second section, which is part of this middle landscape. Then I've got this foreground, and then I've got this like slight background that merges into the midground as well. But that's how it's going to work. And I'm quite keen to do live streaming for this because I've been keen to document how I work, what I work with, and sort of almost like what goes through my brain as I'm doing this, which usually nothing is, because for me, painting sounds cliche, but painting's almost like an escape. It lets my mind relax and not have to think too much, because a lot of this is very automatic for me. But with landscapes, especially because I haven't done landscapes at all or very much in the past, they're more, I'm going to have to focus and actually think about more. And yeah, also the other thing is that the reference image that I'm using is not going to be exactly what shows up on this canvas after everything's done and painted. Yeah, due to the fact that my brain will see something odd, off, or maybe it just wants to change it. Like already I've decided I'm changing the sky, and I use that image specifically to tell me where things are. That is it. It tells me where things are, roughly what the color's going to look like, but I want the sky to be a significant point, because one thing I have made through each and every painting for the series of 4 is that the sky will be slightly more polluted within each one, showing throughout the Industrial Revolution and so forth. And which is something I've been excited about, but it is something I will change more as I go through it. I don't know how long this live stream is going to be. It might be an hour, or it might be 2. Usually, I work in almost segments of when I need a coffee break or another conversation. The other thing is that I didn't think through just how hard it would be to see where things are for this, because, I'm stupid. And I thought, honestly, well, my first thing that I did is I just put the reference image onto the canvas, and I worked through that and just drew it out in graphite, because I thought that would work, and it did. And that's what I do for literally every single painting, is I'll transfer what's on here onto the canvas, and then I'll usually go over it with blue or dark red. And they're my usual go-to things, to be honest. But I'm not too sure why I didn't do it for this one. For this one, I thought, because it's a landscape, I don't need to think too much about it, and I can go straight through with it. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole, yes, thank you very much. I've just seen where the comment section is. Thank you very much, Nicole. That's very, very thoughtful and gracious. So you've said, I love this concept. Thank you very, very much. It'll be so badass when it's all done. Hopefully that's the idea. And the other thing as well, which might sway me to get on with actually doing the work more, is that all of these pieces, the series, will actually be sold as environmentally friendly NFTs, which I know a lot of people think NFTs are bad for the environment, which, yes, in some respects they are, and it can be contradictory within the project that I'm doing to help and save the environment, and doing NFTs, which, according to a lot of figures, the NFTs, one single NFT transaction equates to the environmental damage of running a laptop for about 100 years, something like that. Some staggering number and figure, which, yes, it does, but yes, it doesn't. So a lot of mix-up has happened in the news about all of this. Is that I'm sure you've seen some blips and blobs in the news. And there was one artist, 1000, who I follow, watch every one of his videos. Lovely guy, lovely art, absolutely big fan. He did create a series of NFTs that were going to be sold. Gosh, that's wobbly. He created a series of NFTs that would be sold, and he actually, at the very last minute, decided not to sell them due to the fact they were going to harm the environment when he sold them. Now, I'm all for that, which, brilliant. I mean, you can do what you do, that sort of stuff. But it got me thinking, and it made me look into it more. And the more and more I looked into it, is that it's not actually the NFTs that harm the environment. It's the transactions between different cryptocurrencies that will harm the environment. Also, I apologize, I'm just going to open the window a little more, because, oil paints, mediums, slightly dangerous to a lot of people. Yes, it's the transactions between specific cryptocurrencies, which the main one that a lot of NFTs are traded on is Ethereum. And Ethereum is terrible, like just terrible to everything that wants to help the environment. It is, however, a humanely run cryptocurrency, if that's the correct word. I'm not too sure what the right word would be, to be fully honest with you. But yeah, on the environment, which I found a whole load and range of different platforms and places to sell them and do everything like that, which I have always been, ever since NFTs first came out, I've been quite interested in them and curious as to how they work, which the more it's made me want to look into it a lot more. And so everything about NFTs is something I really, really like the idea of, apart from the fact that you don't get a physical piece, which I've had two options for. Is that option one, I can sell the original piece with the NFTs, because NFTs reach a lot more people, which will hopefully push up the price. And that makes me sound terrible, doesn't it? Let me explain that first bit first. Right, when I say push up the price, I'm not keeping profit for any of these. All of the money will be donated to an environmental charity, which I have chosen to be Team Trees, most likely to be, unless they change or do something, and that will hopefully, and I'm sure you've been aware of them, they've been all over YouTube and have been making a big name for themselves recently, and in the last 2 years, about 3 years. And everything they do, I think, is really, really brilliant. And I'm sure you're aware they also work with Mr. Beast. And so that will hopefully get them going more. And anything I can do to help with that will be brilliant. So yes, when I say push up the price, that's not me being greedy. That's me being greedy to help the environment. But yes, that's what the idea is. That's how everything's going to work. And the actual pieces themselves are not going to be sold on the Ethereum network and cryptocurrency because it harms the environment. They're going to be sold on a separate platform, which will likely be Binance or it will be Hive. I'm not entirely sure. I've also looked into OpenSea more and more, but the more I look into OpenSea, more and more issues and problems arise, which is where they trade a lot more with Ethereum, and anything that's not on Ethereum, it's not pushed down, it's just more not readily available to ordinary people. Which brings me to my another point, of which if you want to comment or make a suggestion or anything about any of this, please feel free, because I'm open to suggestion. I love ideas. I love hearing ideas from people and everybody. Is that I don't know. I'm not fully set on the idea of whether or not to sell one individual single NFT. Like this would be digitized and sold as the NFT, and it would have one transaction, one payment, and that's it. Or, or I can sell editions and limited editions, as it were, of the pieces. And so I could create 1,000 pieces of this within the NFT world. And so they would be sold and at a reduced price, obviously, so more and more people could buy them. But that then takes me to my next point, is that not just because it's not trading on Ethereum doesn't mean it doesn't harm the environment in some form or way. People are still using their laptops. It's still going to make some effect on some part of the environment. And I want to avoid that as much as humanly possible. So yes, that is still in thinking. And yeah, basically the only real guaranteed piece of this is that it will be sold, the money will be donated to an environmental charity, which will most likely be Team Trees. That is the only real guarantee of any of what I'm doing here. Because a lot of it's not just a matter of thought, it's a matter of research, it's a matter of time, it's a matter of actually, do I have the resources to do this sort of thing? And yeah, fun. I also didn't mention why I never did the background. I'm actually most likely going to go do an outline of the background if I can't see what I'm doing. The issue with doing that is that sometimes they will show through, which for a lot of pieces, I've been keen for them to show through. Like if you've been subscribed to me for a period of time, you might have seen my horse painting video. The horse painting that I did was for my sister and her birthday, and it's of her favourite horse, Chalky. Blah, blah, blah. Go watch the video. I explain it all. And what I did in that is I was actually more focused on light and depth and tonal values. I wasn't focused on realism at all in that piece. All I cared about was the light. And so I actually went around the horse on the painting to give a blue tint, as it were, which helped to create that light and depth a lot more. Also, these Andrew Tischler brushes are just like amazing, but they don't hold. That's one thing I'm surprised about. I can get like 6, maybe 4 strokes down before paint starts to run out and it starts blending. Tell you what, let's give this a shot. I can just grab some of that and then do that. I apologize you can't see what I'm mixing, and all I've got is, I said this at the beginning, but I'll say it again. I've got white, blue, black, dark green, light green. If I get to the background and midground and stuff, currently I'm just working on the sky because that's the only bit I'm really interested in currently, because I think the sky is one of the easiest things to mess up, and it can make it look not what it is, and yeah, blah, blah, blah. In fact, the more my eyes refocus onto the piece itself, the more they sort of realize I can see the lines and where they are of the outlines. So I might not have to do a background outline, which will help my life more. Right. I'm also using Winsor & Newton Liquid Original Medium in order to help the paint dry. And yes, if you can see the reference photo itself, you'll notice it is very different as to what I'm actually painting this as. And that is, as I said, purely because it will change more as I look at it, and everything will be different the more I think about it. Well, a massive tractor just went past. If that's the noise you can hear. Live in the middle of almost nowhere. Nah, there's loads of farms around up here, so get that often. Also, FYI, this is not the normal music I listen to. It's I'm a David Bowie fan, Queen, that sort of stuff, and music taste. But unfortunately, YouTube copyright laws prohibits me of using any of that. So I found a copyright-free music thing on YouTube Music, and it's just streaming to my Alexa. I'm just trying to work on the clouds, see how they're going to come out. And one thing I have made clear I want in my reference photo is that the sun is coming over from about this angle here. So it's sort of like on an angle, like just about where I'm standing. And that's how it's going to look and be perceived by people. So I'm yet to work out how that's going to work. I worked it out on the reference image, but I haven't yet quite worked it out in my head on actually doing the painting itself. So yes, that's I'll work it out. Always do. And if I don't, just scrap this one, think about it more, and then redo it. So I want it to be quite a wishy-washy sky as well, to a degree. Not like a Van Gogh wishy-washy sky, but almost fluid. I want it to be appealing to an ordinary person. I want it to resonate within people as to the environment and what we're doing to it. I'm not a jazz fan, if you can hear the music. Not a jazz fan. Still better than elevator music. That was one option. There's literally a whole category of one copyright-free music that was like elevator music used for free. I went, that's not going to happen. No. Get used to it. Well, be quite soothing. The other thing is also actually creating this realistic looking piece and sky, and creating sky so it looks 3D, not 3D, realistic to an effect. You know what I mean? Like there's depth within it. That was something that I had to think about, and I tell you what, if there's one painter on this planet that has helped me, it is Andrew Tischler. I'm like one of the biggest fans of Andrew Tischler. I'll leave a link to him in the description as well. And if you haven't seen his videos, I'm sure lots of you have. He's just one of the greatest painters I can think of, especially as an art teacher. And I watched, thinking about this project and going into it, I Googled, watched, and did every single bit of research I could through watching Andrew Tischler's videos on how to paint a sky, how to paint a landscape, how to create depth, how to create realistic looking trees. I have seen every single one of his videos at least 3 times, which is scary to think about, thinking I could have put those hours into actually painting. But I think I learned more from watching those videos of Andrew Tischler than I would have by doing anything else. It's an amazing thing is today's technology and the internet, and the ability to reach people that are on the other side of the planet. And when you think artists like Vermeer or Rembrandt never have this opportunity to do a live stream or anything of the sorts, it would be people actually having to go and see him paint as a live stream. Gosh, you can tell the sort of things that go through my head when I'm painting now, can't you? That's, yeah. Yes, welcome to my brain. Gosh. Anyway, the way I've worked out I've realized is that to create depth, especially within the sky, is very much to do with the shadows to create this illusion of depth, which is work out where the sun is, which the sun for me is coming over here. It's not straight on, it's over on this right-hand side, just about here. And then that sun will hit the clouds side on. And then on the opposite side, which is over here, that will be a more shadowed spot. So, yeah. I'm going to have to work out how to get a better quality live stream camera, because I'm actually quite enjoying this. I don't know if you're enjoying listening to me blabber, but I'm quite enjoying it. I'm going to need some more medium soon. Maybe I could use this camera as an overhead camera of what paints I'm mixing. I can get a better quality camera to actually show what I'm painting. Don't know, that's a thought. Food for thought. Anyway, I don't have a schedule for when I'm doing these. These are more of a thing of the moment, of when I have several hours dedicated to this without interruption, and I can just paint, which is one of the most beautiful things on this earth to just do personally. Which brings me to another point. As a matter of fact, yet another point. How fun is that? When I started as purely a drawing artist, which, don't get me wrong, I love drawing, always have, and I will never stop drawing, because drawing is part of art. It is a fundamental fact of art that you need to know how to draw, or at least have the ability to draw. I mean, you can go into painting without being able to draw, And there are a lot of artists who have done that. But actually drawing, for me, I went into it as I only want to draw realistic things. And one of my favorite artists is for my drawings is Heather Rooney and Nee Yellow. They are both massive idols of mine for drawing, and they're both spectacular artists. And I went into it going, that's what I want to be like. That's who I want to be. And as I did more and more drawings, I eventually found myself needing more. I'm going to close that window. It's too many cars. I'm going to need like a vent within this room to extract fumes of paints. And anyway, I found myself wanting and needing more. More, give me more. And that led me to colored pencils, because I started off with purely graphite. I don't like charcoal. I don't enjoy working on it. I'm keen to learn it. I am keen to learn everything about art. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I have a book about art history to be used as a house brick. Matter of fact, I'll show you that book. It is like one of my favorite books. I got it for Christmas. That is the size of this book. It is my favorite book on art history. It's called A World History of Art. And it is a brilliant, fantastic book. But that's where, when I say I want to learn everything about art, I mean I want to learn everything. I watch every art documentary I can. I watch every art live stream, every art video, everything I can to learn more. And yeah. But anywho, that thirst of wanting to learn more about art led me to painting. And wanting to paint. Which I never thought I would do, because I remember my dad asked me once, "Are you ever going to paint?" And I said no. And this was when I was doing my graphite drawings. And I said no. And he said, "Why?" I said, "I just want to draw." Or something along those lines of like, it's too hard, or I don't like it, it's too long, it's mess. I'm a very organized person. And I don't actually particularly remember why I said no, but it was something along those lines. And it was really, the more I've developed through art, the more I have found myself wanting to progress and learn and do more, which is where I thought if I was ever going to painting, the most I would ever learn or do is acrylic painting, which has always seemed like the easy thing, or watercolor painting, because when I was younger I worked with watercolor to create like a Christmas card and stuff, and that was brilliant fun. Yeah, cool. It was also the first things we did in like art classes when I was younger, is work with watercolor, because it's expressive or something. And I never thought I would end up loving oils the way I do. Tried pretty much the majority of painting media. I have tried acrylic, watercolor, gouache, oil paints. Literally like as many things as I can try, I will try and do. And I won't excel, I won't exceed, but I'll try. I will try anything. Try anything once, basically. That's a rule I've always lived by. And I don't know, oil paints seem to be this thing in my mind of, they are the masters paints, as they were, of of Rembrandt and Van Gogh and pretty much every artist in history, even like Leonardo da Vinci, and they're just these beautiful things that can be manipulated so easily, but you have to work with them. Otherwise, everything's going to fall apart and everything's going to go wrong. And you have to, I know it sounds weird, but you got to listen to what the paints want and need, if that makes sense. And one of the biggest reasons I know I love working with oils is that they feel like velvet. Not like feel, but when you paint with them, if you paint with acrylic, it's very watery, it's plastic, it's meh. That is the easiest way I can put it is meh after you've tried out oil paints, because oils are velvet, they take more time. You can layer more with them and you can create some stunning and beautiful effects just by trying some oils on your canvas. And yeah, that's my little speech of why. Part of me honestly thought I was not going to enjoy any of this music, but surprisingly, it's half decent. It's not the best, but it's half decent. I can listen to it because I'm not going to get a copyright strike, hopefully. That is it. I'm not going to listen to this on a regular basis. I'm going to have to see if I can find some more interesting music. Like something, yeah, I don't know. If you know of any good, completely free, royalty-free, copyright-free music I can use, then brilliant, like Sight or something. I primarily use Ben Sound music in my videos because I think bensound.com have some of the best music I can use that actually works with the videos I want to create. You know, this sky is actually turning out much better than I ever thought it would, because that sky on this is terrible. This sky is actually looking decent, and that's because that's digital and this is oil, and I prefer oil. But I use digital in order to come up with a composition, come up with an idea, and that's another thing I never thought I'd work with digital. But look at me now. I use it to create a concept, work out an idea, come out with how everything's going to be laid out and work. I'm not a digital artist, though. I couldn't create like a finished piece on digital because I personally prefer the traditional. I'm a very traditional-ish person, especially when it comes to painting. Like traditional frame, traditional everything. Just don't know what it is. Right, this part here is starting to irritate me because I need it more highlighted, but for some reason the white doesn't seem to want to stick. Which is another thing Andrew Tisher taught me, is save your tonal best for last. He says that every single video, you won't find a single video that doesn't say it. Yeah, pretty much. But as he says, you work in 3 layers. Your first layer is you work out. Second layer is you refine it. Third layer is details, which I couldn't agree more with. I also don't want it blended in too much. I don't know if you can see on the terrible camera quality, but up here I've got a lot of strokes that are not out of bounds, but they're a lot more vivid, which I think looks and works really nicely within the whole painting. That can be pushed down more. Right, I'm going to have to focus on that section now. Because if I use this, yeah, that works. Then I'm going to grab a different brush. Oh, well, this works fine. It's just a matter of working out where those lines are. It's a lot harder than I actually thought it would be. But I can see the ones down here fine. It's the ones up here that are causing me grief. But I think after I've got my first layer down and I can work with it, then I'll have things more refined. This sky is not looking too shabby, if I do say so myself. You might think completely differently. I think it is the worst sky you've ever seen on this earth. For me, as my first oil painting of a sky, I like it. Right, we can go a little dark with that blue. That's something I've always found quite challenging as well, is, gosh, this song's going to give me a migraine, is, I apologise, I need to fast forward that song. That's gonna be the death of me. Right, yeah. Okay, that's slightly better. Lovely. I have painted Alla Prima before, and I painted that with the Zendaya portrait that I painted, which was on A2, but it was portrait and not landscape. And I found it very enjoyable, actually, to paint Alla Prima. But the one thing I discovered is that if you are going to paint Alla Prima, the first paint you put down must be the exact color that you want down, which is very hard to do. Yeah, but you'll see a lot of this will change and it will be contrasted more, and yeah. Let's put some dark blue here. I haven't actually said much about the painting itself and what I'm doing and what I'm working through. I've just mentioned other stuff, I think. I don't know, I forget what I've talked about a lot. Quite nervous going into the live stream, and I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And then I was just like, you know what? Go with the flow. Go with the flow. See where it leads. Go where it takes me. Right, that cloud, I'm happy with. I'm going to add in a little more depth and contrast to blend in too much with that one. So I need to think about that one a little more. So yeah, thinking. I like that one. I've worked more on this side, and they're starting to blend in too much. I need to work. It's this space here. I might put on a little more there. See, I wanted to have this appeal of a healthy sky, if that makes sense, because this is before we started to change landscapes for our benefit. This is going to be the piece that kicks things off for this whole project for me. And yes, I am doing this project as a college project, but one way or the other, I would have done this. I listen to what college tells me to do, but I enjoy doing what I do and learning. And that's not like, and I enjoy learning what I want to learn about, not learn other things I'm not so interested about. I'll learn them, but it's a very challenging topic and subject to actually talk about, to be honest. You know, I enjoy learning just about everything I can about art, but there's certain things that are so basic, they're a little bit okay. I swear that half of these songs that are playing are just the exact same damn thing. Right, that one needs to be changed there. That one needs to be a lot more refined. And so in order to make it more refined, I'm going to have it lighter on this side and then darker on that side with the sky. And then later on, I'm going to go back into it, but create a shadow on the cloud itself on that side. I'm not holding the brush so close. I know you meant to hold the brush like this or something, but I don't know what it is. That messes with me a little too much. I don't know. I like it, but this works for me because I can maneuver it with my wrist and arm more than I can with this. When you do this, it's up, down, side to side. There's not a lot of the movement there. So I'll try and hold the brush a little more like this, actually, because that's the proper way to do it. No, can't do it. It's gonna give me a wrist cramp. It's funny, I know I jump between different sections of the painting. I was working here a second ago, now I'm working here. That is purely because of the fact I'll see something that I didn't see before and I'll go, that's working there, let's see if it works here. And I'll go, okay, yeah. And if it doesn't work, I'll take it off or blend it in more. And usually what happens is a happy mistake. That is something I have learned through drawing, painting, art, just everything, life in general is, if you make a mistake, that is what can make a decent, good painting, or a decent, good, whatever you want to call it, painting for a lot of people. Because a lot of the time, when I make a mistake, I know it's there. But when I go and have like an exhibition with it or something, then nobody else will notice it apart from me. And that was something that an artist told me a very, very long time ago. When I first started painting, not painting, when I first started drawing, and I pointed out every mistake I could see in my work, and she went, yeah, but don't tell anybody that because only you see them, because you know the process you did when painting it. And so if I make a mistake, I'm probably going to tell you because you'll probably hear me go, bollocks, or something immensely tragic within my painting will happen. And that's what I used to be like as well. A lot of the times I go, bollocks, I made a mistake. Now it's to the point of, okay, I made a small mistake. How can this work to my benefit? Which, if you panic too much over how the painting is working, or if you have this pristine idea in your mind and it doesn't go according to plan, that's fine. That is completely okay. Because it's meant to be this. This is what I thought of. This is what it is. Because what's the fun in that? This is what I thought of. This is the process. This is so different to anything within that, sky-wise. You know, yeah, I've got more clouds here than I've got here, but this side, that side looks much nicer in that. In this, I've got like this wonky cloud that's sort of going. Yeah, it's a matter of going and seeing how different things work within different ones. This bit's quite hard because that's where the beneath it. Whereas me, I've got this massive shadow drop on it, which makes my life hard. A little bit of highlight there. A little bit of highlight there. Let's work here ever so slightly. A little more there and a touch here because I want the sky to be very vibrant. I don't want it to be, oh look, it's a cloud. Oh look, it's a sky. I want it to be, that's a cloud. Half of the things I say doesn't make any sense to other people. I've learned that at college. Very few people understand what I actually think about when I'm working or talking. I'll just blabber on for half the time. Let's have some more blue along here, because that's going to be where the tree is. And it's going to be some there. Okay, that works quite nicely. I want this guy here. I want to be, that's a sky. I don't want to be any cloud there. That makes sense. I don't know why I keep holding the brush so close. I know I meant to hold the brush further back. I keep moving in. It's odd. It's very unconscious. Actually, I know why. It is because for most of my entire painting life, I have painted with a brush this size. Now I'm painting with a brush that size. That is like the most, I mean, yeah, you see what I mean? Is when I usually paint, I hold a brush like that, and I can move the actual tip of the brush more than I can, and my wrist has to move more. This, I just have to move slightly, and that moves like more than, yeah. So, upgrade. Right. The light is reflecting off of the canvas for me now. Great. Tell you what, let's put some cloud here. You see what I mean? I'm not looking at the reference photo and going, I want cloud there because the cloud is on there. I'm looking at this and going, okay, this is working, that is not working, and then going, let's try that. And then if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, oh well, screw it. But you can tell if something is working on this more than going, that worked on that, why is it working on this? Which is where you've got to ignore that half the time and just focus on this. But don't use your imagination. That's unless you've got a really, really good visual library, you might not. A brilliant artist for is his imagination, his visual library, and his memory. I'm sure you're familiar with Kim Jong-gi. He's a fantastic artist. And he draws purely from his imagination. There's several videos on YouTube and everything, and Stan Prokopenko did Proko. Like 2-series video on him or something. Proko did 2 videos on him about how to paint and draw like him, which when I first started out, I couldn't work out how to draw from my imagination. Still can't. I need some point of reference. But yeah. One of my friends at college has the most amazing ability to draw straight off the top of his head. And he can just go, this is what I want to draw, I'm going to draw it. And yet me, I have to go, okay, what do I want to draw? Go scroll through different pictures on Google and Pixabay and go, okay, that's what I'm going to draw. Let's combine this with that. Let's work out this. I'm a very analytical thinker is probably the right word. I need a process before I start the painting. And it doesn't have to be written down. It's just, it needs to be organized in my head. As I said, I'm an organized person. Let's blend that in. A little more there. Used a lot more white paint than I thought I would. Might need to top things up soon. Especially with my medium. I'm almost out of medium. Quite like this. I can move my arm more with a longer brush than I can with a short brush. With a short brush, I'm very used to just moving my wrist rather than my arm. With a longer brush, you move your arm and shoulder. You watch, I'm going to wake up with the most horrendous shoulder cramp. But the other thing is I can stand so far back. I mean, in the camera, it looks like I'm stood out here. But in reality, I'm stood like at least a meter away. Actually, less than a meter. I'm exaggerating. Okay, let's go there. I want this cloud here to be going off of the canvas. Sorry. Need coffee. Right. I want this cloud to be going off of the canvas, and that will hopefully create, there's more cloud, more to be seen, if it were, which hopefully in the series I'm going to have all canvases laid out against each other, and they'll connect slightly but still show the same landscape. So yeah, that's the idea, and then that's what it's going to hopefully be with the canvases themselves. I've pretty much run it out. I've talked for pretty much an hour straight. That's insane. Take a breather. You're gonna have a breather. Right. I am going to go and get a coffee refill because being able to actually function at 5 o'clock on a whole day, I'm sort of drifting. So I'm going to keep this going, and I'm going to go and ask for a coffee. So I'll be back. Right, I'm sure that was remarkably boring. I've got my coffee. Right. So, bleh. Fun. Right. Gotta love a good coffee. Ugh, right. Okay. Damn it, I didn't pause that thing. I'll have to edit that out. Okay. Right. Back to work. This is literally my work. This is my job. This is what I want to do as a job. Best thing. We're back to this stupid song. Okay. I can live with this one. To watch, actually, about Skies, who very, very recently released, actually it was like 2 days ago, he released this video on how to paint realistic looking skies. And he's a very, very amazing realistic artist. I'd almost go as far as photorealistic artist. And his name is Chuck Black. And if you're in the art world, you definitely would have heard of him. And he is a very, very good realistic artist. And he does some very good tutorials. And he also has a YouTube members thing where he does more tutorials if you want to learn to paint like him, which is very good. I was on that for a while, and they were very good. But I eventually switched completely to watching Andrew Tischler, and Andrew Tischler doesn't have a YouTube members thing. He has a Patreon where he did a weekly live stream, which even though here in the United Kingdom it starts at like 1 a.m. and it didn't finish. There was one time it went for like, I think 2.5 hours or 3 hours, I think. And I literally stayed up at 1 and watched it all the way till like 3 or 4 a.m. And when it ended, I went, that was so good. Then I realized I had college that day. And then I went, oh, how am I going to function? And yeah, and then welcome to my dependence on coffee. Lovely. That bit there, right here, needs to be lighter there. But there's a certain section that's already got slightly darker just behind it, which I'm going to use to my advantage. I'm not going to do that within the next half an hour because I'm going to have to wait for that to dry a little bit. It doesn't have to be touch dry, it just needs to have like this sticky layer to it where new paint will stick and not just blend. I've made that mistake twice. The other thing is that I'm not going to do like a live stream for every single step on the painting because you're going to get bored. I just know it because like I don't talk a lot when I paint, clearly, because I ramble too much. And so I'm not going to do the live stream continuously for every single step and stage because, yeah, I'll turn into a very dull and boring person for you all. And so I will probably do the shadows of the clouds in a different period. But yes. See, this song is nicer than the repeatedness of the other ones. I can sort of jam along to it more. There's one thing I've discovered when drawing and painting and art in general is that time flies.
It really, really does. Your time just disappears when you paint, and you almost go into this trance-like state, which is very hard for me not to go into at the moment, because if I go into it, I'm just not going to talk, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to stand here and paint my heart out. But when you are doing it, you'll realize time just literally disappears. But it does for certain aspects. I mean, because I started as a realistic drawer, artist, painter, whatever you want to call it, I very, very, very quickly realized that realistic art takes so much time. Like, so much time. The realistic portrait that I did, my self-portrait, took me over 65 hours. 65 plus hours, easily, which now hangs in my studio over there. Yeah, there. And that's the mentality I've had to adapt to, is that if I'm going to do a piece, it's going to take me hours, days, weeks. Even though in reality, a painting doesn't take me that long. It doesn't take me as long as a portrait, which is why I will charge more money for a portrait than I will for an oil painting. Because even though oil paintings, with all the supplies and stuff, cost slightly more, they don't take me as long. And I'm talking like a matter of days or weeks, you know, because the self-portrait painting, it took me 65 plus hours, which, yeah, in reality, those hours add up to like a couple of days. You know, that's like 3 or 4 days. And when those, the thing is when people don't realize is that I'm not drawing for those days consistently. It's not like I've spent 24 hours of my entire day doing that drawing. I did that drawing, my realistic drawing, over a period of months, because I also had college. And luckily that piece managed to fall within a project we were doing for my college work, so I got to work with that a little easier, which gave me more time. But that took me months to do, whereas this is going to take me maximum 2 weeks, possibly 3. I don't think it'll take me 3. It's going to take me a maximum of 2 weeks. But those 2 weeks, I'm only in college Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 to 4, pretty much every day, essentially. And when I get home, I don't want to paint. I want to sit down, I want to watch TV, and I want a lovely coffee. But the other, but then the 2 days I'm not in college, Thursday, Friday, so today's Thursday, are our study days. And so a study day, you're meant to be doing your college work, and you're meant to work and do what you do, what you're meant to be doing for your college stuff. A lot of people go into college on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and work on their project pieces. Me, I cannot do that. I really, really can't, because I have everything I need set up here, which is just one of the most amazing things that I've been able to do, and my parents have allowed me to do, is have this studio space that I can work in when I need to, when I want to. This is my sanctuary as well, you know. And so I'm not going to take in an oil painting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into college and work on this at college, because one, they're not going to let me record it in college, which means I'm not going to be able to do a YouTube video. I'm not going to be able to do a live stream. 2, my supplies are going to get nicked by people. That's just fact. You know, the amount of supplies that we've lost in college just from the supply closet, which people are meant to return, just poof, disappear. Which I understand if people need supplies and stuff, which, yeah, I mean, we pay a bursary, and so it covers the supplies and stuff, but they're not theirs, they're not yours. And so that's why I'm not going to take this into college. I'm not going to work on this at college. So that leaves me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to do my painting. Which, for me, I am very much a workaholic. As any person who has ever met me will tell you, I work a little too much sometimes, and I've consistently been told that, especially in recent years, is that I need to take a break, I need to learn to relax. And so Sundays, that was my New Year's resolution, is that Sundays are my days. They are me days. I will do what I want to do on a Sunday. My problem, I'll probably want to paint. And so, yeah, fun. I don't get a lot of me time to relax. I say relax because a lot of people's version of relax is go and sit down, go and play a video game. For me, this is relaxing. Sorry, I need to open up this door. It's very warm in here. For me, this is relaxation, which is where it conflicts with my times and schedules and stuff, you know. But yeah, it's not the easiest thing to explain to people. Anyway, I don't actually know if any of you are watching or listening or even paying attention. Half of you are probably going, will it just shut up and just get on with the painting now? So, fun. I'm also not even aware if that microphone works. I haven't got a clue. These brushes are so dynamic. They're lovely. And this is a Tish dagger brush, if that works. Yeah, so it's got this lovely slant on it, which makes it so versatile to be maneuvered in so many different ways to create these different effects across the painting, which is lovely. And it has this smooth thing. The only comment I will make is that they don't hold a lot of paint, which I'm very sure they're not meant to hold that much paint. You're meant to do like 3 or 4 strokes and then like refill on your brush. But with the cheaper brushes I've always used, they hold so much paint and I can just like do the painting. And that's it, really. And that's something I'm readjusting to with these, but they are the most beautiful brushes. And so the company that makes them is Rosemary and Co., which when I first heard of them, I was like, oh, where are they going to be based? They're going to be like an American company, and I'm in the UK in Lancashire. And I was really, really hoping to go and see them. And then I Googled them, and it turns out they're actually based a 30-minute drive away from my house. They are 30 minutes away. And I went, yes, woo! I can go and like actually go and see them, actually go and get a set of brushes from them. And so I messaged them, and this was like during the peak of COVID lockdowns. No, it wasn't. Everything was recovering from the COVID lockdowns now at this point, which I was sort of going, okay, they're going to be recovering, so I'll have to wear a face mask. There's probably a certain limit of people that can go into the store, and there's probably like these set times of when people can go in. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So I sent them a message and went, hi, when you open, that sort of thing. And they used to be, but they're closed to the public because of COVID and stuff. And when I said, when are you going to be open again? They said, not till summer next year. So I went, bollocks. So, I would have loved to go and see them in person. That would have been just brilliant. Because fantastic brushes. Love the brushes. I follow them on Instagram and they seem like genuinely nice people. And yeah. Hello, what are you doing? I've got a visitor. I've got my cat, Big B.
Say hi to the camera.
Hello. Yeah. Go on, go over here, bud. Can be a nuisance sharing a studio with a cat because he has, on occasion, jumped up onto my pallet, which ended up with him being out of the room. But nah, he's fine. He's a ragdoll, so he's very docile. He'll usually just sit down and look at me and go, "When are you going to give me a cuddle?" Yeah, I love him. Gosh, it feels like forever since I've done an oil painting. It's a very strange thought process that goes into a landscape, which is something I hadn't considered before. And that's like doing the landscape, there's more depth to think about. And I'm aware you got to start from like the back and work forward from like the furthest point and work to the closest point, which, once again, Andrew Tischler, the great all powerful master, has said and taught me, which yeah, I was aware of, but it wasn't something I had thought about much of actually having to do. But it's a very strange thought that goes into having to create this depth, because primarily up until now I've always done portraits, and I've done a few still lifes and figure works and blah blah blah, but primarily I've done portraits, and I've done a lot of portrait work and stuff like that. And need to open that more. So, and doing portraits, the most amount of depth you have to worry about is where's the nose? Where's the highlight on the nose, and where does that nose sort of go, and like the highlight here, the shadow, and then this part here is darker than this part if the light's here, that part's had all that sort of crap. And I bought so many books on having to learn that sort of stuff. And then landscape painting is so difficult because the depth perspective, I think would be the right word, is a whole new idea to even contemplate. What's happening? Shoot, there we go. This side is working. This side is not. This side doesn't like me. So when you think something just isn't going right, but you don't quite know what, which is what I don't know. I don't know what's working on, what's not making it work on this side. You got to think, okay, what do I like? What don't I like? What's working? What's not working? How can I fix it? Once again, an Andrew Tischler tip. All copyright Andrew Tischler. Yeah, cool. And that makes you have to think, okay, what's working this side? So I'll look at this side, and one of the biggest things I can see that's working is this cloud here. That cloud there specifically works. This cloud here specifically does not. That one doesn't work. That one is kind of working. So what's making this one work and what's not making that one work? This one here, I can instantly see has this highlight across this top, which creates more depth between it. On this side, there's some darker areas which I haven't worked into, which also make it appear more lifelike as a cloud and creates more depth. I can also see that the cloud actually expands further here, but starts to and begins to dissipate, which when I focus that idea on that side and transfer it onto this side, I can see that it has no highlight, it has no depth, it is just a single blob on the painting. And then from that, remember the dissipation, that's not a word, I don't think, is of that cloud is actually going up here and away from the highlight. On this side, these clouds are not, which in reality, when you look at a cloud, some of them dissipate, some of them don't. And so a lot of time, you've just got to think, why isn't it working? And how can I fix it? And then do I want to fix it? Which brings me back to my other referring point of, okay, what am I trying to achieve within this painting itself? The achievement I want to create is this realistic, lifelike, almost fluidity. I don't think that's also a word. Fluidity within the painting. Look at me, I'm a genius, I'm making up words. I want it to have that fluidness to it. There's a hair on that. Bugger. Get rid of that later. Also, my hands are grubby from charcoal. Is that a hair? Yeah, it is. I will get rid of that later. But anyway, so that then makes me think, okay, so that's moving from a dissipating cloud over to here, which isn't. So do I want to keep that? Yes and no. Yes, because it creates this transformation and it's a difference. 2, no, I don't. Or I do, yes, because there's this movement within it and there's this change. And another thing about art is that your audience, your viewer, will primarily always look at the painting from left to right. Why? Because that's how we've been brought up. Left, yeah, that's how we've learned to look at certain things, especially if the layout to work of where I'm going to gallery or whatever and stuff, especially for the NFTs. So if I want a person to look at this from left to right, I want them to be drawn in from the left side and go, okay, that's a nice soft landing pad for their viewership, as it were. That's the way I'm thinking about this is, okay, nice to look at, moving across, a bit of interest there, a little more across, okay, and it's getting dull. So remember what I said at the beginning, if you've been watching, is that from here, I want this cloud here to be a cloud moving off of the canvas, but I still want blue around it. So I'm going to keep the clouds like this, but I'm going to get rid of those hard edges because this bit here looks like a teardrop almost. So if I get rid of this hard edge by literally just blending it in slightly, and if it doesn't work, then that's completely fine because I can change it back to what it was, and it will never be exactly as changed, but it can be transformed to back roughly what it was like. And yeah. So if we blend that in, you can instantly see that's got rid of that really sharp edge. That was just a jagged edge before. But now it's blended out more, and so it's got this, I'm going back to the word fluidity again. I have more coffee to make my brain function. There, that's my coffee done. It creates that softer view for your viewer and your audience to actually look at and can be more appealing. But don't forget, we're also going to make those highlights. We are yet to actually add in those highlights. It is a pure fluke, pure mistake, but it is a happy mistake that that cloud is working. That cloud is working because there's a highlight and it's communicating depth to us. These ones on this side are not, because we have not added highlights yet. And so that's something you need to keep in mind, which is something you as a viewer can't see until me put on. You can I see it in my mind, I see what I want to do, I see how I'm going to achieve it. And so to achieve that, I need to put on those highlights. Unfortunately, I'm not going to actually do that now, because in order to add those final highlights, I need to wait for this layer to dry and everything. It is pure fluke. What I am going to do is I'm going to make these edges of the clouds blend in more. And the more they can blend in, the happier I'll be. To an extent. I don't want the whole thing to be just this one big cloud mist blend. There's an idea to add mist along here of the background. But I don't want them to be completely jagged, because that's not how you see clouds in the sky a lot of the time. There are times you'll see these little clouds that are lower and they'll move along and they're just rigid. But more times they're soft, they're more dissipated. There's, fluffy clouds. So that's what I want to achieve, which you won't be able to see yet because there's no highlights. And so they'll look flat, bland, almost unlifelike for the beginning part. But just you watch. Next time the live stream comes on, I'll probably be working on the background, but you will see the change in what I have done. So I've not actually got a lot of paint on my brush now. This is purely a fact of me moving the paint across from what it's already on, which the paint is on the clouds, and I'm moving the paint more onto the blue to create that fluffiness, and will eventually lead to that depth and that lifelikeness of a cloud, which the cloud's not purely white. Remember, clouds on this side, the highlight will be white. Clouds on that side, where the depth is, will be slightly grey-ish. Not too grey, because that will be leading later on into a more polluted landscape within the series. But you can already see that these clouds are starting to work a little nicer within the aesthetic of the painting itself, and with those clouds over there. So yeah, that's my little tip, trick, whatever you want to call it. That's my little ramble. So yeah, I'm going to finish the live stream now, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please mention it, leave a thumbs up, do subscribe, whatever you want to do on YouTube. So yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope to do another one soon.